Welcome back, everyone. Grab something warm, get comfortable, and stay with us, because this one is going to break your heart before it puts it back together. The lunch hall at Hanguk Elementary School smelled like kimchi soup and crayon wax. Every table was full except one. A small girl stood at the edge of the cafeteria with her tray, scanning the rows of children already deep in conversation, already grouped, already closed. She was 7 years old. Her uniform was perfectly pressed. Her hair was in 2 neat braids. She had her mother's cheekbones and, though no one in that cafeteria could have known it, her father's eyes. Dark. Still. Watching everything. The girl's name was Seo Yuna. She found an empty seat at the far end of a crowded table and stood beside it, tray balanced carefully in both hands. "Can I sit with you?" she whispered. The boy at that end shrugged and slid his bag off the bench without looking up. Yuna sat down, smoothed her skirt, and began eating alone in a crowd. She was used to it. At the same moment, in a glass tower 40 minutes across Seoul, a man was being told no. It was a rare experience for him. Kang Ji-won sat behind a desk the size of a dining table, his suit jacket folded perfectly over his chair, his shirt sleeves rolled to the elbow in the only concession he made to informality. He was 34 years old. He ran the Kang Syndicate, loans, real estate, private security, and the other things polite society didn't ask about, with the precision of someone who had never once made a mistake he could not erase. "She refused the meeting," his aide said. "Again." "Yes, sir." The aide's name was Park Dong-hyun. He had been with Ji-won for 11 years. He knew when to speak and, more importantly, when not to. He did not speak now. Ji-won turned to the window. Seoul spread below him in every direction, gray and enormous and lit at its edges with afternoon light. Somewhere in that city, the woman he had spent 8 years not thinking about had refused again to take his call. Her name was Oh Mirai. He had sent her away once. He had told himself it was for her protection. He had told himself the same thing so many times it had stopped feeling like a lie and started feeling like weather. Just something that was true, outside his control. "Find out where she works," he said. "I already know," Dong-hyun said carefully. "She's a school nurse. Hanguk Elementary, Mapo District." Ji-won said nothing for a long time. "A school," he finally said. "Yes, sir." Something moved across his face, not quite softness, more like the memory of softness, observed from a distance. "Send flowers," he said. Dong-hyun paused. "Flowers. And then throw them away. Don't send anything." Ji-won picked up his pen. "I'll go myself." Oh Mirai heard the front office call her name over the intercom at 2:15 p.m. She was restocking the first aid cabinet when she heard it, and something in her stomach tightened. Not a named feeling, just an old reflex, the body remembering what the mind had trained itself to forget. She walked to the front office. He was standing by the reception desk, wearing a coat that cost more than her monthly rent, looking at the children's artwork pinned to the bulletin board as though he were reviewing a contract. She stopped in the doorway. He turned. 8 years. He looked the same. That was the terrible thing about men like him. They were preserved by the cold. "Mirai," he said. "You can't be here," she said. Her voice was steady. That was the thing people didn't understand about her. She had been steady through things that would have shattered other people. She had been steady the night she left, steady the day she found out, steady every morning since, making lunches, braiding hair, pressing little uniform collars. "I just want to talk," Ji-won said. "This is a school." "I know. There are children here." "I know that too." The receptionist was very still behind her desk, pretending to type. Mirai stepped out into the hallway, pulling the door shut behind her. She crossed her arms. "You have 3 minutes," she said. "I've been trying to reach you." "I know. You haven't answered." "I know that too." He almost smiled. The almost smile was the most dangerous thing about him. It had always been. "I want to explain. You explained 8 years ago," she said. You were very clear. I was a liability. I was from the wrong family. The engagement to Chairman Yu's daughter was already arranged. You were very thorough, Ji-won. You covered everything." He said nothing. "Nothing has changed," she said. "Go back to your tower." She turned. "Mirai." She stopped, but didn't turn back. "I ended the engagement," he said. 2 years after you left. I ended it." A long pause. "Good for you," she said, and walked back inside. She told herself she was fine for the rest of the afternoon. She restocked bandages. She gave a second grader an ice pack for a bruised knee. She updated immunization records. She was fine. At 3:30, the dismissal bell rang. At 3:45, Yuna came to the nurse's office the way she did every day, not because she was sick, but because it was her mother's office, and it smelled safe. "Mama?" "Hi, baby." Mirai pulled her in and kissed the top of her head. "Good day?" "A boy let me sit with him at lunch," Yuna said, as if this were news of modest global significance. "That's wonderful." "He didn't talk to me, but he moved his bag." "That's still kind." Yuna climbed onto the examination table and swung her legs. "Mama, are you okay?" Mirai looked up. 7 years old. She always knew. "I'm fine," Mirai said. "Your voice sounds tight," Yuna said. Mirai laughed despite herself. "Tight. Like when you're trying to be fine, but you're not." Mirai cupped her daughter's face in both hands. "I'm fine, Yuna ya. I promise." Yuna looked at her for another moment with those dark, still eyes. Then she said, "Okay," and pulled out a crayon drawing from her backpack to show her. Mirai looked at the drawing. A house, a woman, a little girl, 3 figures. 3. She had always drawn 3 figures. Mirai had never asked about the third. That evening, the envelope arrived. It was slipped under the door of Mirai's apartment in Mappo while she was giving Yuna a bath. She found it when she went to check the hall. No stamp, no return address, just her name in printed block letters. Inside was a photograph. It was taken that afternoon. Outside the school. Ji-won at the front door. Mirai in the hallway through the glass. And Yuna, tiny, in the background, walking toward her mother's office with her backpack on, completely unaware. At the bottom of the photograph, someone had written 4 words in red pen. "He found you. We know." Mirai sat down on the floor of her hallway and stared at it. She knew exactly what it meant. If someone was watching Ji-won, and people were always watching men like Ji-won, and they had connected him to her, and they had seen Yuna, she sat there for exactly 90 seconds. Then she got up, put Yuna to bed, waited until she heard the slow breathing of sleep, and called the one person she trusted. Her mother, Oh Boxen, arrived at 11 p.m. with a bag of jian she had cooked, and an expression that said she already knew something was wrong. Mirai showed her the photograph. Boxen sat quietly for a moment. "He came to the school," Mirai said. "I see that." "He wants to talk." "And what do you want?" "I want Yuna to be safe." Boxen set down the photograph. "Then you have to tell him." "Iyama." "You have kept that child's father a secret for 7 years, Boxen said, not unkindly. "I understood why. I agreed with you. You were protecting her from his world." She tapped the photograph. "But his world has found her anyway, and the only person who can put a wall between her and that world is him." Mirai pressed her hands flat on the table. "He doesn't know," she said quietly. "No. When he finds out, it will be enormous," Boxen said. "Yes. And you will get through it, the way you have gotten through everything. Silence." "She has his eyes," Mirai said finally. "I know," her mother said. "I have always known." She called Dong-hyun's number the next morning. Not Ji-won's. Dong-hyun's, because she needed 30 seconds of buffer before she lost her nerve. Dong-hyun answered on the second ring. There was a pause when she said her name. Not surprise exactly. More like a man who had been wondering when this call would come. "Tell him I'll meet him," she said. But not the tower. Somewhere public. A cafe. I'll arrange it, Dong-hyun said quietly. And Dong-hyun see. Yes. Tell him to come alone. The cafe was in Hongdae, busy enough at 10 a.m. that no one looked at them twice. Jiwon was already there when she arrived. He had ordered 2 Americanos. He had remembered. She sat down. He waited. She had rehearsed this. She had rehearsed it in the shower, on the subway, walking the 4 blocks from the station. She had a sequence and an order and a plan. She threw all of it away. I have a daughter, she said. She's 7. Her name is Seo Yuna. She watched his face. The stillness was absolute. He might have been made of stone. She was born 8 months after I left, Mireille continued. I chose not to tell you. I told myself it was to protect her. I told myself she would be safer without... She stopped. Without your world around her. Still nothing from him. She has your eyes, Mireille said. She has your... Her voice cracked. The only time it cracked. She draws 3 people in every picture she makes. She has never asked me who the 3rd person is. She just draws it. Jiwon looked down at his coffee cup. His jaw moved once. Show me, he said. Very quiet. Mireille reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. She turned it to face him. Yuna. Grinning at the camera, a missing front tooth, braids slightly uneven from a morning when she had insisted on doing them herself. Dark, still eyes. His eyes unmistakably looking up at him from a phone screen for the first time. Jiwon stared at the photograph for a long time. He said nothing. That was when she knew it had hit him. Men like him never showed the big things. They showed nothing, or they showed everything. And right now he was showing nothing so hard, it was the loudest thing in the room. Someone sent me a photograph last night, she said, of you at the school, and Yuna in the background. Someone wrote on it. He found you. We know. He looked up. The stillness snapped. Show me, he said again, differently this time. He made 2 calls from the sidewalk outside the cafe. She watched through the window. His face during those 2 calls was a face she had never seen on him before, controlled, precise, but underneath it, something fierce and entirely new. He came back inside. It's Shin Tae-gyu, he said. Former associate. He's been building leverage for 6 months. He found out I was looking for you and assumed. He stopped. He assumed you were leverage over me. Is she safe? Not while he thinks she matters to me. Mireille stared at him. She's a 7-year-old child. I know what she is, he said quietly. She's mine. He said it simply, not as possession, as fact, as something that had just reorganized every atom in his body, and he was only now working out how to stand. He called Dong-hyun again. I need a safe house in Mapo, clean, tonight. A pause, and Dong-hyun. His voice was steady. Whatever Shin has, photos, addresses, any of it, I want it gone, every copy. Meanwhile, Park Dong-hyun sat in his own car 3 blocks away and let out a breath he had been holding for about 7 years. He had always suspected. He had done the math once, quietly, and then quietly put the math away, because it was not his to carry. Now he picked up his phone and started making calls. The safe house was a clean, plain apartment in a quiet building in Mapo. 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, a window with a view of a convenience store, and a laundromat. Nothing that would interest anyone. Yuna walked in carrying her backpack and her favorite stuffed rabbit, and looked around with serious eyes. Are we on an adventure? She asked. Something like that, Mireille said. Will I miss school? Just a day or 2. Yuna considered this. Okay, can we get ramen? Yes, baby. Juwon was in the doorway. He had followed them up and now stood at the threshold as if crossing it required a different kind of permission. Yuna looked at him. He looked at her. the first time he saw her in person. She studied him with those calm, measuring eyes that were absolutely his. She tilted her head slightly. He recognized the gesture because he made it himself. "Who are you?" she asked. Direct. Simple. Jiwon glanced at Mirai. Mirai looked back at him. The question hung there. "I'm someone who knows your mama," he said carefully. "My name is Jiwon." Yuna nodded once, as though filing this information. "You can come in," she said with the authority of someone who had just decided she owned the apartment. "But take your shoes off. Mama's rule." Jiwon looked down at his $500 shoes. He took them off. He stayed. He hadn't planned to stay. Mirai made ramen on the small electric stove. Yuna sat at the kitchen table and drew. He sat across from her, jacket off, which was how rare this felt. Yuna pushed her drawing toward him across the table without looking up. A house, a woman, a little girl, and a tall figure, separate, at the edge of the page. "That's you," Yuna said, still not looking up. "I always drew you, but I didn't know who you were." The sentence arrived like something falling from a great height. Mirai, at the stove, went very still. Jiwon stared at the drawing. "How did you know to draw me?" he asked. Yuna shrugged. "I didn't. I just knew there was a space." She reached over and took the drawing back and added a line connecting the tall figure to the house. "Now you're not at the edge," she said, and went back to coloring. Donghyun called at 9 p.m. "Shin is moving," he said. "He knows the girl is with you. He sent 2 men to the Mappo apartment. Your people were already there, so no contact, but he's escalating." "What does he want?" "He wants the Incheon port contract. He's been cut out for 2 years. He thinks the girl is a fast way to renegotiate." Jiwon stepped into the hallway, door shut behind him. "He wants to use a child," he said. Not a question. "Yes, sir." Jiwon was quiet for a moment. "Call him," he said. "Tell him I'll meet him. Just him. Tomorrow morning, the old warehouse in Yongdeongpo." A pause. "Sir, if we bring—" "No," Jiwon said. "I'm going alone." "That's not—" "I'm going alone, Donghyun. Set it up." He went back inside. Yuna was already asleep on the couch under a blanket Mirai had found in the closet. Rabbit tucked under her arm, cheek smooshed against a cushion. He stood over her for a long moment. He thought about what he had said in the cafe. "She's mine." He had felt how true it was. He had not felt many true things in many years. Mirai appeared beside him. "She falls asleep mid-sentence sometimes," Mirai said softly. "One moment she's talking, and then she's just gone." "She's brave," he said. "She's the bravest person I know." Quiet. "I should have fought harder," he said. "When you left. I told myself it was right. I told myself you'd be safer away from me. I was a coward, and I dressed it up as nobility." Mirai said nothing. "I'm sorry," he said. Still nothing. Then, "Don't make promises tonight," she said quietly. "Just be here tonight. Tomorrow is tomorrow." He nodded. She went to the bedroom. He sat in the chair across from the couch and watched his daughter sleep, still and quiet in the dark, and for the first time in 11 years, he did not feel like the most powerful man in any room. He felt like a man who had missed everything that mattered. He was awake before dawn. He stood over Yuna one more time. He reached down very carefully and tucked the blanket around her shoulder where it had slipped. She stirred, opened her eyes halfway. "Jiwon-si," she murmured. "Go back to sleep," he said. "Are you leaving?" "For a little while." She blinked slowly. "Come back," she said without drama. Just a plain request. "I will," he said. She closed her eyes. He meant it. The Yongdeongpo warehouse was empty and cold at 7 in the morning. Shin Taegyu arrived with 2 men despite the agreement. Jiwon arrived alone. Shin was a wide man in his 50s, with the look of someone who had spent decades being underestimated just enough to stay alive. He smiled when he saw Jiwon. Alone. Shin said. Brave. You wanted to talk, Jiwon said. We're talking. The Incheon contract. No. Shin's smile did not move. The girl is photogenic. It would be a shame if certain photographs circulated. You, a woman, a child, no one knew you had. Very compelling story. Your partners would have questions. The prosecutor's office would have questions. Jiwon looked at him. You think that's a threat? Jiwon said. I think it's leverage. Leverage works when the other person wants to protect something they're hiding. Jiwon tilted his head. I'm not hiding her anymore. A pause. What? She's my daughter, Jiwon said simply. Her name is Seo Yuna. She's 7 years old and she draws pictures of houses, and she made me take off my shoes in an apartment doorway last night. He paused. I have nothing to hide, so you have nothing. Shin's smile finally changed. You're bluffing. Send the photographs wherever you want, Jiwon said. Post them. Call the prosecutors. I will be standing next to my daughter at school pickup this afternoon, in front of every camera you can find. Silence. One of Shin's men shifted. Jiwon looked at the man calmly. The man went still. You came here to take something from me, Jiwon said to Shin. But you picked the one thing that I will not be ashamed of. You have nothing. Go. Shin stared at him for a long moment. Then he laughed, short, dry, defeated. You've gone soft, Shin said. Yes, Jiwon said. And he didn't say it like an insult absorbed. He said it like a fact. And like a fact he had decided, for the first time, to be grateful for. He walked out. Behind him, Donghyun's people, who had been quietly positioned in the building's perimeter for the entire conversation, emerged from the shadows and relieved Shin and his men of their phones, their photographs, every copy, every backup. No violence, just removal. Shin Taegyu left Seoul the following week. Voluntary, or close enough. Jiwon was in the school pickup line that afternoon. He had changed into a less severe coat. He stood on the pavement with other parents and grandparents, and he looked exactly as out of place as he felt, and he did not move. Mirai stood beside him. You don't have to do this, she said. I know. She might not understand yet what you are to her. I know that, too. Jiwon. Mirai-ya. He said her name the way he used to say it, a long time ago, before he had learned to say nothing. Let me stand here. She let him stand there. The bell rang. Children poured out. Yuna appeared in the doorway, scanned the pickup line the way she always did, and froze when she saw him. She crossed the pavement at a slightly faster walk than usual, not running because she was very composed. She was always very composed, and stopped in front of him with her backpack on and her rabbit sticking out of the top of it. You came back, she said. I said I would. She looked at him carefully, then at her mother, then back at him. Are you my appa? She asked. Direct, simple, devastating. Every parent in the vicinity pretended very hard not to hear. Jiwon crouched down to her level. His expensive coat pooled on the dirty pavement, and he didn't look at it. Yes, he said. Yuna processed this for 3 full seconds. Then, I knew the space was yours, she said, and she took his hand in her small one and turned toward the gate. Can we get ice cream? Mama said we could get ice cream. Jiwon stood up, her hand still in his. Yes, he said. We can get ice cream. Mirai pressed her lips together hard and looked at the sky for a moment. Then she fell into step beside them. Now, if you've been watching from the beginning, thank you for staying with us. Before we get to the ending, take a moment to like this video, drop a comment below, and subscribe if you haven't already. Tell us, did you see the ice cream moment coming? We're almost at the most beautiful part. Don't go anywhere. The months after that were not a fairy tale. They were harder than a fairy tale. They were real. Jiwon had built an empire on control and opacity, and he had to learn slowly that a 7-year-old girl was interested in neither. Yuna told him when his voice was too bossy. She informed him that her rabbit's name was Mandu, and that he needed to know this. She made him sit on a tiny plastic chair at her low art table and color inside the lines, which he was, it turned out, very bad at. He was not used to being bad at things. He was not used to caring about things that were small and soft and unpredictable. He learned. With Mirai, it was slower and more careful. Trust was not returned in one afternoon. It was rebuilt in small installments: a dinner, a school event, a morning where she called him because Yuna had a fever, and she was alone, and he came immediately at 3 a.m. with medicine, and sat with them both until Yuna's temperature broke just before sunrise. That morning, Mirai fell asleep in the chair beside the bed. He covered her with a blanket. He was still there when she woke. She looked at him across the room in the early light and said nothing. He said nothing. It was enough. The dissolution of the Kang Syndicate took 14 months. It was not dramatic. Jiwon had always been methodical. He untangled it the same way, quietly, thoroughly, and with an accountant, a lawyer, and a compliance consultant who asked a great many uncomfortable questions and was paid accordingly. The legitimate holdings, the real estate, a chain of private security firms, 2 restaurant groups, remained. Restructured, clean, run by boards and managers, while Jiwon stepped back. He testified twice. Once voluntarily, once not. He named names. He lost 2 former associates who had been, he would not call them friends, but something adjacent to it. He lost them anyway. He told Dong-hyun on the day it was done, "You don't have to stay." Dong-hyun looked at him. "Where else would I go?" "Anywhere. You have enough." Dong-hyun was quiet for a moment. Then, "I'll stay until you don't need me. Then I'll figure it out." He paused. "Yuna Yang asked me to teach her origami last Tuesday." "And?" "I don't know origami." "Then learn," Jiwon said. Dong-hyun looked like he might actually smile. Jiwon's mother, a small, iron-spined woman named Kang Soon-sil, who had watched her son become what he became, with a grief she had carried silently for 15 years, came to meet Yuna on a Sunday afternoon. She brought red bean buns. She sat across from Yuna at the kitchen table. Yuna studied her. "Are you my halmoni?" Soon-sil's expression did something complicated. "Yes," she said, "if you'll have me." Yuna bit into a red bean bun. "Do you know how to braid hair?" "I do." "Mama does it, but she makes it too tight." "I have a lighter hand," Soon-sil said. "Okay," Yuna said. "Then yes." Soon-sil looked across at Mirai, who was standing in the kitchen doorway. Something passed between them. Not forgiveness, that was a different and longer conversation, but the beginning of a willingness to have it. Soon-sil nodded once. Mirai nodded back. He asked Mirai to marry him in the kitchen of the small apartment she had kept in Mappo, standing at the counter after dinner while Yuna was in the bath, in a voice so quiet she initially thought he had said something else. "What?" she said. "Marry me," he said. "Jiwon. Not for the paperwork. Not for the name." He looked at her steadily. "Because I want to be in that apartment. In this kitchen. On school mornings, when I'm always wrong about the traffic and we're always slightly late. I want to be a person who is slightly late for school because of traffic, Mirai. That's what I want." She stared at him. "That's the least romantic proposal I've ever heard," she said. "I know. I was very nervous." She looked at him for a long time. The man who had once sent her away. The man who had sat on a tiny plastic chair and colored outside the lines and showed up at 3 a.m. with children's fever medication without being asked to. "Yes," she said. He exhaled. From the bathroom. "Mama, I need a towel." The moment broke into immediate practical chaos, and neither of them minded at all. 3 years later. The apartment was bigger now. They had found one nearby, still in Mappo, because Yuna did not want to change schools, and that was the end of that discussion. But it had the same feeling. Small. Full. The Sunday morning in question was the morning of Yuna's school winter performance. She was playing a snowflake. She had told her father this with immense seriousness, and he had told her it sounded like a very important role, and she had agreed. Mirai was pinning silver ribbon to Yuna's costume at the kitchen table. Jiwon was making toast and making a mess of it. Dong-hyun had arrived, uninvited, with tangerines, because he did this now. Showed up on Sunday mornings with small things, because Yuna had declared him an honorary uncle and he had not recovered from the honor. Soonsil was already at the school auditorium holding seats. "You're burning the toast," Mirai said, without looking up from the ribbon. "I have it managed," Jiwon said. "You don't." He looked at the toast. He did not have it managed. He turned it off. Yuna watched this exchange with serene amusement. "Appa is bad at toast," she told Dong-hyun. "He's bad at many things now," Dong-hyun said gravely. "He used to be very frightening. Now he burns toast." Yuna thought about this. "That's better," she said. "Yes," Dong-hyun agreed. "It is." Jiwon said nothing. He ate the slightly burned toast and said nothing, and the kitchen was full of voices and ribbon and the smell of tangerine peel and winter coats, and he stood in the middle of it and felt, for perhaps the 10,000th time in 3 years, the specific texture of an ordinary morning. He still sometimes caught himself in it. The smallness of it, the uncomplicated safety, the fact that his worst problem on this particular Sunday morning was burnt toast and traffic to the school auditorium. He had given up everything to arrive here. He would do it again without a second. At the winter performance, Yuna walked out onto the stage with 8 other snowflakes and stood in the spotlight with her silver ribbon and her serious eyes and scanned the audience the way she always scanned a room. She found them in the 3rd row. Her father, her mother, Dong-hyun with a tangerine he had forgotten to leave behind, Halmoni in the best seat, already recording on her phone. Yuna found her father's face specifically. She raised one hand in a small, dignified wave. He raised his hand back. She smiled, wide, missing tooth, entirely undignified, completely hers, and turned back to the stage. The music started. Kang Jiwon, who had once run a criminal empire with an iron hand and a cold face, sat in a plastic auditorium chair in the 3rd row of an elementary school winter performance and watched his daughter be a snowflake. And he was fine. He was more than fine. He was exactly where every choice he had ever made, good and terrible, had finally, improbably, brought him. He took Mirai's hand in the dark. She let him hold it. On stage, the snowflakes spun. "Thank you so much for watching until the very end. It means the world to us. Drop a comment below and tell us, when Yuna said, 'I knew the space was yours,' did that moment get you? Because it got us every single time we read it. If you're new here, subscribe and turn on notifications. We have more stories just like this one waiting for you. See you in the next one."